And I'd like to open the March 8th, 2021 Council on Aging Board meeting. This meeting is being held virtually through Zoom. The town of Littleton began conducting remote participation Zoom meetings pursuant to Governor Baker's emergency order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law on March 19th, 2020. Since that time, unanticipated legal concerns relating to the open meeting law have been brought to our attention by the town clerk. Those concerns were supported by the Attorney General's office and confirmed by town council. One concern is that the chat function allows a parallel text conversation to a board's public meeting. Chat is essentially running commentary that is occurring, but it is not moderated or followed by the chair. All participants and listeners may not be aware of comments being made because some meeting participants join by phone and do not see these conversations. Another concern is conversations between residents within the chat room, which are not incorporated into the public record. In response to these concerns, the town will implement the following changes, which in no way prohibit any member of the public from participating in discussion and sharing information during a public meeting, and will ensure that all listeners and participants have equal access to this meeting. People that join Zoom meeting are set so their microphones are muted. If you called in by phone, please use *6 to mute or unmute your phone. So that the meeting can occur in an orderly fashion, we ask that people who join keep their microphones on mute so background noises do not interfere with the meeting. If you wish to participate in the meeting, please use the raise your hand function available on Zoom, or if you called in by phone, dial *9, which will activate the raise your hand function. The meeting host will notify the chairperson of the raised hands, and the chairperson will determine whether and when to allow public comment. When called upon, participants should unmute, then state their name and address. After speaking, we request the participant return their microphone back to mute. I hope that all of that came through in this wonderful day today when the COA board is having captioning options for our meeting so that people that have difficulty hearing and following Zoom meetings can read what's going on. So it really is, we're honored that the LCTV decided to pilot this with the Council on Aging Board today. And we are the first board meeting to have this feature. So another milestone in our history. So we have all these milestones due to COVID. So that's not all bad. So, all right. Okay, I think we have a quorum. We have everyone present with the exception of Susan. And she has left me with information to share for her portion of the meeting when she would have been giving some information. So I will share that with everyone. This is an open meeting, so I would remind the staff, the board members, that we have to adhere to the open meeting laws. Other than the closed captioning, which was really an announcement, but I'm so excited, I just jumped right into that. I'm very excited that we're having this opportunity today. Are there other announcements from board members that they wish to make at this time? Anyone? No. Okay. Moving on then. Can we quickly accept the minutes, and then I think we will move right on to an update from Anthony regarding the LLB Senior Center proposal. Is that okay with the board?
Sure. I'll make a motion. We accept the minutes as written and hope that they're right.
Oh. Do I have a second on that motion? Well, we got to have a second on that motion.
Some of us did, yes.
Yes, seconded.
Okay, thank you. It's been Moved and seconded that we accept the minutes from the February 8th, 2021 meeting. We need to do a roll call vote. David,
Yes.
thank you. Mark,
Yes.
Maureen,
Yes.
thank you. Ann Lee,
Yes.
Wendy,
Yes.
thank you. Anita,
Yes.
thank you. And Marge is a yes. So we are good to go. All right. We invited Anthony to come to our meeting today because I know some board members, I know Ashley and I, as well as some of the board members, have heard feedback from different people in the community, and there seems to be some confusion about the proposal that LLB presented a month ago on February 8th. So I asked Anthony if he could come, and perhaps we could ask him questions and he can answer them, or however we want to go about it. And Anthony can also touch base. I gave him some insight as to some of the confusion that's out there. And Ashley was here. I think she's still around. Or did we lose her? There she is. Okay, I see her. So, all right, thank you. And thank you, Anthony, for taking the time. I know your schedule is packed, but it's important, I think, that we get accurate information out to people. So,
Sure. You're very welcome, Marge. It's my pleasure to be here. So just I'll give you a little brief. Marge was correct. Back in February 8th, LLB presented their report after they researched Indian Hill and whether or not that was going to be a possibility of a location for a senior center. After they reviewed that, there was a number of changes that would need to be made, code changes, and for the use that we were proposing, which is different than the current use of that property. So at that point, it was determined that it didn't really meet the standard necessary without doing some major construction and major infrastructure work to that building. So we then looked at the next option, which was building a center and at land that we have and that we own. Well, land that we own is right here on Shattuck Street, which takes there's no cost for that land, which there would have been a cost to acquire Indian Hill. So we're right now looking at contracting out with LLB to do a feasibility study to determine what it would cost so we can get that true dollar amount. And this is something that was very similar to what Mark did and the library trustees when they did the library. So this is really step one in making a senior center for Littleton a reality. Certainly this has been really a goal of the select board for quite a number of years. And one thing that they made clear to me that was a priority for them. So I was happy to work with them and get to the point where we're at right now. So I'll open it up for questions that you may have, and happy to be here as long as you need me to be.
okay, board. Start the questions. If any, we must have, I think, a few. I'll kick it off with one. I know somebody called me, Anthony, and they thought they did not get the picture that it was a new building that was being proposed and the location of the new building. So maybe you could explain a little bit about that, the area that's being proposed to be looked at for a new building.
Sure, it is a new building. We currently don't have a building at that location next to the new library. So originally what we were trying to do is look at possibility of not putting it similar to the library and having it built off the cliff because there's a lot more site work that needs to be done, and when you have that much site work that needs to be done, that increases the cost of a senior center, or any building. So we were looking at possibly bringing it more towards the parking lot into where those sheds, storage sheds are, and to hope that might be a reality. So that will be determined in the feasibility study that LLB will do for us on where the best sitting for the location would be. Obviously, one thing that we don't want to sacrifice is parking. Parking is very important. We can't ask seniors to park at Castle in the Trees and walk up to the senior center. That wouldn't make any sense in the world. So that's obviously something that we have to take into consideration. So there's still quite a bit of work to do to determine where it will be, where the site will actually be, but it's what we're looking at is really right next to the library.
So close to the library, near the ballpark, the playing field there, or
Right.
you're saying,
Yes.
yeah? Okay.
Yes.
I'm just trying to be able to have a picture that people can visualize a little bit. So
It's tough to
I
visualize
understand.
it, I know, yeah.
But okay, thank you. I think that helps a little bit.
Anthony,
Yes, David, how are you? Nice to see
I'm
you.
fine, thank you. And yourself?
Thank you.
Has there been any talk, or just, when we were doing the library way back, conversation came up about the tennis court. Okay. On the side of the building, the tennis courts that are here on the property now. Is there any thought about that? Because that's totally flat.
Yeah, David, we did look at that too as an option, and actually it being maybe even a 2-story, where the first floor would be same ground level as the entrance to the library,
Yeah.
and the second floor really being level with Shattuck Street.
Yeah.
But the problem with that is parking, and it came too close to PRCE and the current space of the senior center, that building right there. I don't know if that's 39, it's not 39 Shattuck, or 35 Shattuck, but it just came too close. So that would have just been really, seniors would, it didn't work as much as I think that I would have liked that, but yeah, it just didn't work with the parking situation.
Yep. Okay.
Other questions?
I'm kind of concerned about the size of the facility, because I thought we were hoping and looking for somewhere around 18,000 square feet, and I believe this proposal is around 13,000. Am I correct with that?
It's what we've set as a goal, as a maximum goal for square footage, and was 15,000 square feet. And the reason why, it's just purely financial at that point. Would we like to have a 25,000 square foot senior center that would serve the seniors for the next 100 years? Sure, we would, but we have to pay for that. And what we do know is the library's cost per square foot is about $610 per square foot. And if we wanted to create a project that we could fit under the levy limit and not require an exclusion vote, which wouldn't be something that the selectmen really cared to do, that we had to make some sacrifice. And with that, we're stretching it right to that point. And I think that that's about a 15,000 square foot building that I think will accommodate our needs for the seniors. One thing that we had an opportunity to do is we went over to Groton's senior center, and it's beautiful. It's actually, do you remember, is it 12,000 square feet if it's that? I'm not even sure.
I think it's about 13,000 square feet.
Yeah, and I think that if any of you had an opportunity, if you haven't seen it, I think that if you did see it, you'd be more than happy to have something like that in Littleton. It really served a lot of needs, and it was very, it's a building that really can be made into a lot of different programs at different points in times. So it's really for the cost that they did, that they had, and I think that there was between 7 million, around there, $6 or $7 million for that building. But that was a nice flat piece of earth. And we don't have that. And that's where we have the additional cost to that's going to really jack up that price per square foot.
Do we have a price, Anthony, per square foot that we're projecting?
No, so all we have to work with is with the library. We know right now that we're paying $610 a square foot. So and this is just our guess on by the time that we're ready for construction, that prices only go up. They never seem to go down. So that's why we're using a $650 per square foot cost. Love for it to come under. We just don't know. And that's what the feasibility study will help us get to, is what the cost of that building will be.
So Anthony, do we have to, I'm just throwing out some questions to be the devil's advocate in a way, but so for the feasibility study to occur, do we have to wait for town meeting? Do we need funds allocated for that?
Yeah, so there'll be a
Town
couple
meeting?
of, sure, thanks, Mike, that's a great question. There's a couple of articles that we will have regarding the senior center. The first is we're going to repurpose some capital project money that was in other projects that we're going to close out and repurpose that $80,000, which will fund the feasibility study. And then we're also looking at asking for $1 million borrowing, so we could get right from the feasibility right into the design. How did we get to that dollar amount? We're using the $10 million total with design and building as a number. So normally design costs are 10%. So that's $1 million. It'll probably be south of $1 million. And how we got the feasibility cost of $80,000 is that's normally 10% of the design cost. So when we talked to our consultants and we got a price, it was just under $80,000. So those are the two warrant articles that we'll have at town meeting, so we can keep this project moving. You know, I'd love to say that at this time next year we'll be walking into a new building. I think Mark can attest to that. That's not going to happen. It's still going to take some time to do all this, but we really don't want to waste time. You know, the select board made it really clear, you know, as I said, it's their goal to keep this thing moving and getting it done as fast as possible. And that's why we're actually asking for the design money before we know what the total cost is.
I have a question, Anthony, about the design. When you get into that, are you talking just the outside design and the room layout, or are you talking about the total finished inside look? Because I think the inside look and character needs to be different to take into consideration the elderly and the handicapped as far as color and width and different things in the building. Am I too far ahead of myself in that?
Yeah.
Okay.
We're not picking out the color on the carpets yet, but
No, I didn't. So you're just looking at the ultimate design.
yeah. So right now, what we'd be looking at, once we get into, even with the feasibility study, I would actually play a big role in helping them get through the feasibility study and even through the design process. And I would imagine that we may have some working groups or so forth that will help Ashley in getting to where she needs to be with the consultants. And of course, my office, either Joe or I, will be involved the whole way through, as well as a member, obviously, of PNBC and PNBC, not CNBC.
Anthony, can
Hi, Jamie.
Hi, I know I'm a visitor. I just have a quick question.
Sure.
Will you guys I know that this is different in different towns and different process. Will you go out to bid for an architect, or are you going to have you signed a contract to have that go forward with LLB?
So originally, way back when I was actually here as the assistant, when we entered into the agreement with LLB, it was done to get us to a point where we can construct something. So we just have to make some modifications to their contract, but we would use LLB for the work. Well, that's the proposal anyways, Jamie. Obviously, the select board has to approve that contract, but that's where we're headed. You're welcome.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but we do have a hand raised from an attendee. So I don't know if now's the time you want to invite this person into the meeting, or do you want to wait, Marge?
No, I'm sure. No, let's invite the person in. It's good to have questions answered. So I have. Is that Nancy Levine?
Yes.
Okay. Nancy, you're muted.
Okay,
There we go. Whoa, even got a camera now. You're Nancy Levine from,
from Littleton, Massachusetts. I have a question for Anthony about the Brockton Senior Center. And Anthony, thank you for being on board and thank you for coming back to Littleton. We missed you a great deal.
Thank you.
So anyway, if I'm correct, and I might not be, the Groton Senior Center is only for seniors. It's not for elders and humans, correct?
Ashley, is it? Maybe Ashley knows that.
I believe it's specific to the Council on Aging, so it's the Groton. But their name is the Groton Community Center, to my knowledge.
Okay.
It's the Groton
Okay.
Center, right? And yes, it's, even though it's for the seniors, Nancy, there is other use that they allow there. They will rent out the hall. They also will host. The town will host different gatherings in the room when it's not being used. So there is multi-use for that. And I think that when she rents it to the public too. So they could use it for baby showers, bridal showers, communions, mitzvahs, anything. And right now, that's certainly something that we don't have here in Littleton. We always struggle for a hall like that. So I think that could even hold a place that'd be very helpful in the community.
I remember the director saying she was so thrilled that she got the senior center. The location is not terrible. The property is super. There's a lot of room to expand. But she said it wasn't big enough for the future. I mean, going 10 years. So I'm wondering about this site that's being chosen. There will be no room to expand. Is that correct?
With money, you can do anything you want to do, Nancy. So
We don't have money.
that's a good point. But let's compare what we have currently. Ashley, what's the square foot of the current?
Oh,
we
boy.
host?
I don't know.
It's
I
like
don't-
5,000 square feet, I think. So, we're basically gonna triple the size of what seniors are currently used to in Littleton. Rooms that can be used for a number of reasons and for a number of purposes, for a number of different programs. And what we have to really do is just really get creative with scheduling. And that's where Ashley will really earn her pay in making sure that we get best use of every room in that building throughout the day, morning, noon, and night.
Okay, thank you, Anthony.
You're very welcome, Nancy, and it's great to see you. And thank you for your kind words.
I just found I was grasping for this, but I do believe we're currently operating with 3,800 square feet.
Oh, there you go.
So I took it right from, a brochure that we had put together to educate people back a couple of years ago, so. And so that is a huge improvement.
It would be a huge improvement. You know, Nancy, we're going to do it the best with what we can. Certainly, I think that it can serve our needs today and into the future too.
Well, a lot of that is the design. I think you make a point, Anthony, if you design the rooms and if it's a new building and we can design it in such a way that, several smaller spaces can be utilized and become one big space, it becomes a much more flexible, place.
Right. It's all
So
flex space.
design is going to be very critical.
Yeah, Maj, that's right. It's all flex space. So in other words, we'll give you an example. You can have a room, and then you can have a room that's going to be a craft room, and maybe a room that we use for the dementia program. And what you could have within that room is, well, the craft room would obviously need a sink and some cleanup areas and cabinets and so forth. So you can have in that room a section that has the sink, but you could close that up with doors so it's not visible. So people wouldn't be able to use that portion of that room. It's just like be like a closet type. And that's what about flex space is all about. Would we love to have a room to meet every single need? Yeah, but it just doesn't make sense, because with every room that we add, it's $650 a square foot.
No, and Ashley has a good sense of that. We have the great fortune of having Jamie with us too, who's got a lot of experience in design and construction of senior centers, I think. So, so that design piece of things is going to be very important, and it has to be a really good team effort. So everyone's sharing information. And we have a lot of people that are pretty knowledgeable about the needs of seniors as well as other age populations, because it will be housing elder and human services.
That's right. And to your point, Maj, I think we have a great team. I think Ashley's a great leader for our elder and human services. And I think having Jamie, who was involved with the Needham, building out the Needham Council on Aging, and Ashley certainly worked on Wellesley's Council on Aging. So we have some great experience with these two individuals that I think is really going to help us throughout our process.
Great. More questions, keep them coming, because it's helping people to understand. As we ask questions, it's helping to get the information out to people, who will even watch this on cable, on LCTV down the road. So
I have a couple questions for Anthony. What's the process between now and town meeting, and what can the COA do to help the design and feasibility and everything move along, so this doesn't get mired in the mud and just get stuck, right? What can we do to help, and how can we move it along?
So the plan is to go to the board on March 22nd with the contract to award LLB the contract to get us through the feasibility study. At that point, I think that we would set up a little working group to support Ashley and Jamie during the feasibility process. And what does that consist of? Maybe a member or a member or two from the COA, probably somebody from my office, maybe a member of the Board of Selectmen. That's something that I haven't discussed with the board yet, and we'll be giving them some recommendations on the 22nd. But I'd imagine that changes, so that working group that's helping Ashley get it through the feasibility study might be a completely different working group once we get into the design. That where we probably want to make sure that we have some of our technical experts like, Ed Mullen, our building commissioner, and PMBC and so forth, and folks that know more of the construction aspect of going through the design process. So I think it's going to be very fluid. We're going to change it up on the fly as we go through the whole process. So right now it's, we have to wait till the 22nd and then get into discussions with LLB and then move the process forward. Patience, Mark, patience.
I'm fine on the patience. I just was trying to make sure we're doing the right thing. And to Nancy's point about that site not having room for expansion, since no one really knows the end disposition of what's going to happen with Shattuck Street yet, you don't really know if there's room for expansion or not, depending on what ended up happening with that overall campus, right? So if the library's out and the COA is out, and, that building could be, different things could happen to that building, right, in that site. So there's a lot of unknowns there that will be worked out over time. So.
Yeah, great point, Mark. Yeah, lots of unknown with Shattuck Street.
Yep.
Certainly not on the priority right now is really the senior center. We don't want anything
Right.
to.
It's not on the same time frame, but
Right.
it's something down the road that's going to have to be addressed.
Right.
So.
Right.
Well, yeah, if people are thinking ahead to the future, then that's the future. That's part of the future too. So good point though, Mark. Yes, Jamie.
One thing I wanted to, I don't know whether it was Nancy who brought this up and then Anthony put it so well. I just want to reiterate that my experience and having visited, not just being involved in building and then running a center that had been built, but visiting many other centers, that the important word is multi-purpose. Every space, one of the things that we made absolute sure when we were doing the design in Needham is to make sure that everybody understood that all spaces were multi-purpose. Whether you wanted to start out saying the craft room was here because it was a sink, okay? But let's say people 10 years from now didn't want to do crafts, or next week, nobody owned the space is what I'm trying to say. And that goes on today. I mean, I'm still very much in touch with those people, and, things move around. What you book in a room today may be next month booked in another room. So the thing I would say to all of you is just hold on to that multi-purpose idea.
Great. That's a great point, Jamie. Thank you. And it is so critically important, I think, to maximally utilize the space, be able to maximally utilize the space. So, great. Welcome, Scott. Do we have any other questions for Anthony? And I think, Mark, thank you for asking about how the COA can help. We certainly know we want to be as helpful as possible in keeping this thing moving and rolling. So we'll rely on Ashley to help guide us in that process. And I'm sure she'll get guidance from Anthony and as we go along. So, and Jamie. So
Nancy has her hand up.
I have
I'm
one
sorry?
more question.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Nancy.
I have one more
Okay.
question.
Nancy, it's okay.
Thank you. I went to hit the button to raise my hand, but it wasn't there anymore. So I understand all the spaces really need to have a multi-purpose, but it brings to mind as to the thrift shop that the Friends have. We are so hoping and praying that we will get space back to have the thrift shop, but there's no way that could be a multi-purpose room because what's ever in there needs to stay. You can't move around shoes and furniture and jewelry and coats and all that stuff. So just keep that in mind, guys. Thank you.
Hey, thank you. Thanks for Nancy for bringing that up. All
I
right.
have one more
Yes.
quick logistical question. Anthony, so you're asking there's two warrant articles, one for feasibility and one for the design funds?
Correct.
And the feasibility is in the special town meeting?
We're not going to do a special town meeting anymore. There really isn't a need for it. So we're just putting everything in the annual town meeting. It'll just be a capital item, capital article, and then there'll be a borrowing article.
My understanding in the past was if it was in the annual town meeting, we couldn't spend the money until after July 1st. Is that no longer true then?
But yeah, it's Yes, well, yes. You don't have to wait on certain votes at town meeting. Obviously, FY22 budget can't start till July 1st.
Right.
But repurposing capital funds, we can start right away. So there's certain things that we can do right away that we really don't need to call it a special town meeting to do that. You can get the same thing accomplished under the annual town meeting.
Okay, I was just making sure that we weren't delaying till July to get started.
No. That's what the purpose of the whole 2 articles is, really just to not have the delay and not, because as you know, Mark, normally we would just be saying, okay, we want to go to town meeting with the feasibility study, wait to see what happens with that, then go to town meeting in the fall with the design money, and then after we go through that, the build. So we just want to keep the process moving, and that's why we're proposing the select board's proposing the 2 warrant articles.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else have any questions for Anthony? Are we ready to? All right. Thank you, Anthony. I think that was so helpful. It sounds like we're working to become more efficient in this town. I know that you're under reorganizing town offices too, so that's great. And even with town meetings. So
Lots to do.
impressive, very impressive. So thank you again for coming and spending the time with us out of your busy schedule. We really appreciate it. And
You're very welcome. I'll hang in there. I'm gonna put you on in the background so you'll still see me, but so if there's any other questions, then feel free to just let me know.
thank you.
You're
Thank you
welcome.
very much. Okay, moving on then. We have with us also Scott Wadzinski today. So board members, I am asking if it's okay with you to move things around, and Scott's with us to help us address the COVID-19 update, which is under new business. And we have, it's 2:07. We also have another issue. I would rather have, let's go with, ask Scott if he can help us with the COVID-19. He and Ashley can address that now, if that's okay with the board members. So we're not tying Scott up either.
Great.
You're okay with all of that? Okay.
Yes,
All right. So Ashley and Scott, COVID-19 update.
Is everyone?
What's going on, Scott?
So there's still a lot of hurry up and wait. For the districts, there are a few things in motion, but there's really no clear answer on anything that's going to be extended past what the Neshoba Board of Health is doing over the next couple of weeks. Right now, they're wrapping up what they have. Most of those are already second doses. There are a few things that are, being worked on within the district, but there's really no clear answer as far as if there's going to be anything at Devon's or locally. But there are definitely still some folks that are working on that. The guideline from the governor is still, any site that can administer a minimum of 750 doses a day. So that's quite an undertaking for anybody. And if they can make it work in a regional spot that's going to be nearby, absolutely we'll be jumping on trying to take advantage of that in any way we can. I'm still hopeful that Lowell General is going to carve out a few chunks of doses for each of the communities that respond there. We haven't gotten an answer. I know they've had a couple meetings on that. We were able to take advantage of that last week a little bit and have a few people signed up. I'm not sure how many we actually got out of it, but they emailed us, and I reached out to Ashley right away just so that we could jump on whatever we could to get a few folks signed up. And I know CVS is still they're still administering vaccines. I know the best time for that. If any of you are early risers, they release them every morning at 5 a.m. So if you can jump on at 5 a.m. or a couple minutes before, and you be able to get them at some of the local clinics. I believe they're administering them in Acton and in Hudson. Those are the two closest ones that I'm aware of. And the other thing is just, really stay vigilant. And if you can find rides to any of the mass vaccination sites, it'd really be worth your while. I've heard several people going into Fenway. It's pretty quick in and out. Gillette has been a little bit more of a wait, and it's really hit or miss. They said some of the days they're in pretty quickly, receive their shot, and they're out. And there's been other days where folks have waited upwards of an hour just to get in. So it's a little bit of, it's hit or miss, a little challenge there. CDC came out today, just a few hours ago, stating that anyone that you have received the 2 vaccine shots, and it's been 2 weeks after your second shot, you no longer have to wear your mask or social distance if you are in a gathering where everyone has been vaccinated. So if you're outside and you're in a mixed group, they're still recommending you keep your social distancing and wear a mask. But again, if you're indoors with family members or other friends that have been vaccinated, and it's been 2 weeks after your second dose, you no longer have to social distance or wear a mask. And that's right on the CDC website. So you can, for anyone to reference. Ashley, do you have anything else? Have you heard anything else for site-wise?
Yeah,
I haven't. I think the volume of calls have certainly decreased a little bit. So we are aware that people are making appointments, whether that be through their primary care physician, local pharmacies, Lowell General, etc. But we also know there are some people still eagerly waiting to book an appointment. And we're doing the best that we can to provide information as we receive it. But like you said, continue to stay vigilant in the meantime. And knowing that eventually, if people want it, they will receive the vaccine. It's just going to take time.
to expand on, if I may, to expand on Chief Wodzinski's comments about a regional vaccination site, I know that he's been working through his channels, and I've been working through the managers and administrators through the 16 communities that make up Neshoba Board of Health. And we've been really advocating with our state delegation on a regional site here, somewhere in our area. We talked about Devon's, and we continue to work on it every day. I'm just was working on a couple of emails as the chief was talking, and again, trying to get the state to recognize that we need a site out here, and we're willing to help with anything that we can as being one of the 16 communities. And if that's offering up our fire department, who is certainly able to administer vaccines, then I know Chief Wodzinski has his troops ready to go when called upon. So we're working really hard at that. We even had a site set up at the point, and we got shut down by the state. But every day we're continuing trying to bring a regional site here. Just keep in mind, if we were successful in bringing a regional site to our area, that it would be just like any other site, and it wouldn't be Littleton resident specifics. You'd still have to make appointments through the state's website to book appointments. So certainly could make it easier, but it doesn't do what we originally wanted to do, was really take care of our own residents. They just won't let us do that right now.
Yes, Jamie.
God, I just wanted to tell you that I heard, and I think it was today, because I try to read this stuff too, that Fenway was going to be no longer a site. soon, and that the convention center in Boston, did you hear that too?
That's correct. I believe Fenway is going to operate, I believe through the end of the month. And then it'll be going to the Heinz Convention Center.
Okay, thank you.
I would like to say that my husband booked his appointment at Hudson CVS and I did mine in Palmer. And it's extremely easy to book an appointment and you're in and out so fast. It's great if you can get an appointment at CVS. It's not all bottled up the way you have to go on and sign up and everything at the state. They make it a lot easier.
No.
Thank you, Anita. Any other questions for Scott? Great. Scott, thank you so much for coming. And
No problem. Good luck.
yeah, I think it's helpful for people when they, hear things from the people that know what's going on. So, and you know what's going on. We know that you do.
We try. It's literally evolving day by day, and
I know.
we try to keep up with it. And anytime, if we have an opportunity to jump on something, I'll pass it on to Ashley as quick as I can so that she can reach out to anybody and see who she can get signed up.
Great.
So,
Thank you.
well, all right. You're welcome.
We're grateful for that. Okay, we really are moving around our agenda here. So, and I'm going to ask for another move because we have Jamie with us only until I think around 2:30. And so therefore I'm going to ask that you take up we take up the item about reviewing the rules, COA rules and regulations while Jamie's with us. So if we can do that. Ashley? can
Yes,
you
happy
kick us
to.
off, please?
Sure, happy to jump in here.
Thank
So
you.
I was reviewing the Council on Aging Board's rules and regulations, and I noticed in Article 3, which is membership, it talks about how no member may serve more than 3 consecutive 3-year terms. And I believe that was developed many years ago. So I am asking for the board to consider extending the chair's term because this year would be her last year. And I think it's very important right now to have the consistent leadership, especially with someone who's been working towards the senior center and knowing that the senior center process is so close. Plus the fact that we're still living through a global pandemic. So I just wanted to see if the board would be willing to extend the chair's term. And I do know that in other towns, that this consideration has been made at the Council on Aging level. Hence my ask.
Yes, David.
Yes, I would like to ask where this rule book evolved from. Was this a set of regulations that was handed down by the state? In which case I would have to say, I don't think I've seen that. Or is it something that we made up?
David, I can answer that because I've been on the board long enough to remember. And it is strictly a local Littleton Council on Aging. The rules, our rules and regulations were developed in collaboration with, of course, the select board and town administration as to the role of the board. And so the issue about how many terms a person serves came up in the discussion as a result of something that Emmett Schmajer from the Department of Elder Affairs mentioned one day and said, it's good to have turnover of people on a board, and you don't want people to stay on for 35 years, for example. You need new blood. And so I think that back when that statement was put into the rules, it was with that intent that you need to encourage new blood on boards, and that's true. And that hasn't changed. It's just that, and we certainly have new blood. We have a vacancy now that we're, going to be trying to fill. So it isn't like we as a board have not had new blood coming on board. So anyway, it's not a state, it's not a local, even, not even a select board or a town thing. It was the local COA board rule. That's all it is.
All right. Okay, no, I only asked because I've been looking at that rule for the past 2 years. Okay, wondering why it had to be in there and thinking that it would eventually have to at least be spoken of. Okay, so I guess I'm glad it's been spoken of, and I can't say that I really like it being there.
Okay. Yeah, Maureen. You're muted,
You're
Maureen.
muted.
Okay, so Marge, through you to Ashley. Ashley, are you saying that it would change in that it would be all members of the board would be able to serve more than 3 consecutive terms, or just the chair?
I think that's a conversation that the board can have. My real ask was to Marge, the chair, for this year, knowing that her term limit will expire. I just think it's such a unique time for the Council on Aging, and Marge carries the history. So I think it would be great if the board could consider extending her term for an additional 3 years, because we could really benefit from her knowledge as a whole.
Just a point of clarification, Ashley, the board can't extend my term, only the select board can do that. My term will expire in June. I have to reapply to the select board or to the COA board and the select board to be reappointed by the select board. So that's the process that's in place in town that would have to happen. Yes, David?
Yeah, let's see, I'm just looking real quick, and I see myself and Ann Lee and Mark and Maureen and Wendy and Anita are all new.
Right.
Okay, there has been a lot of turnover. Okay, I'm not worried about that rule at all. Okay, there's been plenty of turnover here, and I don't see why we need that rule.
If I could step in, my comment is that having been on the personnel board for a number of years, and when you work in a department in a capacity for a number of years, you have a great deal of knowledge, and a lot of it's in your head, but you know what it is, you know how to answer questions. And I think right now, Ashley came in at a very difficult time where we had COVID and everything was new. And Ashley and Marge have worked very well together to accomplish all that Ashley has accomplished, which is a great deal so far. And I think it would be a big mistake not to change these rules and not to keep Marge on for another 3 years. There's so much going on with the senior center and elder and human services expanding. And Marge has got a wealth of knowledge, and I would hate to see that gone. And yes, there has been a big turnaround on the board over the last 4 or 5 years, which is new blood and which is good. We do have a vacancy that we have to fill, so we'll have new blood there as well. So I think we should vote to extend Marge's term for 3 years.
Well, you can't extend my term. I'm sorry, you guys can't do that. So
Madam Chairman,
you need to abolish that. Excuse me, David. Yes, David. Sorry.
yes, let me just cut right to the chase. I would like to make a motion to delete under Article 3, Section 3.1, The COA shall consist of 9 members who are residents of Littleton, all of whom shall serve staggered 3-year terms. No member may serve more than 3 consecutive terms. I move that we delete that section.
Can I, before we second it, can I ask a question? Do we have the authority, do we have the authority to do this? Because it doesn't seem like, since we're not appointing you, I don't know how we can prevent you from running. It seems like the selectmen are the ones that have to make this rule, not us, right? They're the ones that say, they're the ones that, we can't appoint you, Marge. So
I know
I don't know
that.
how we can prevent you from running. So this rule makes no sense from the COA point of view. It's got to be from the Board of Selectmen point of view, right?
But
These
Mark,
rules-
the rule that we have in our books, this is, I think, what the concern is. Our rules and regulations state that no member of the board.
I
Yeah.
understand that.
Yeah,
but
that's
what I'm
what,
saying
all
is-
we need to do is, that what David was suggesting, I think, was to delete that
But what I'm
sentence.
saying is, but what I'm saying is that rule doesn't matter anyway, because we can't, as a board, enforce it. Because we can't appoint you to the board, therefore we can't, that rule makes no sense, right? If that rule is something that's going to be enforced, it's got to be enforced by the selectmen, not by us.
Okay,
So
But we
the
can
rule
vote
doesn't
to-
make,
Oh my
We can
God.
vote
vote to
it.
take it out of our bylaws.
we can take it out of the bylaws, but if it's us, but the selectmen are the ones that have to vote to say that it's not a valid rule for the bylaws, because they're the ones doing the appointment, not us, right?
No, that makes no sense. We made this rule, not the selectmen. We made the rule.
So if we made, but we can't enforce the rule. So it doesn't make any sense as a rule then.
then perhaps
we
it
just-
should never have been made a rule, Mark. It is your point, I'm thinking.
Yes. So it's either something the selectmen have to agree not to do, or it's not something that makes sense for us to have anyway. So
Okay.
I would say that someone, maybe Anthony or someone needs to make sure the selectmen agree to take it out, or it doesn't really matter anyway, because we can't appoint you to the board.
The only thing even if I may just add, under Article 3, it says, the COA shall consist of 9 members who are residents of Littleton, all of whom shall serve staggered 3-year terms. That is the piece that the selectmen have. So, I mean, we have an MOA with the select board, and that's that the board consists of 9 members. And obviously, the terms are 3-year terms. The COA board added that in. I don't remember exactly when. I'd have to look back in the records myself as to when that was added in, and maybe it was illegal to add it in. I think that's what you're saying. It made no sense to add in.
Right.
Marge, if I
So,
may?
Yes, Anthony.
Thank you. I'm sorry, Mark. Did you have a thought you wanted to
Nope.
finish?
go ahead.
So I think that the only portion you're looking at is the term limits. Let's call that term limits, where it says you can't do 3 consecutive. So if the board wants to, and I don't know off the top of my head if this is somewhere embedded in our bylaws or if this is structurally, just a selectmen's policy. And if that's the case, if the board wants to take a motion today, to David's point, to just basically take out the term limits part of it, where you just want to really take out that last line where it says you can't serve 3 consecutive terms. And then Ashley can send a memo to me, through me, to the board of the select board, asking them for consideration to change that rule. And then we can put it on the agenda on the 22nd and see where it goes from there. I'll do some research and figure out if it's just the select board's vote that simply can change that. If that's the case, then I think that's simple as that.
I recall when it was put in that it was only as a result of something that came about from a recommendation, a suggestion made by Emmett, and that people needed, and it was to try to keep, as I said, the focus was trying to encourage turnover and new membership in boards to get new ideas and new blood. And that it had nothing to do with our board of selectmen or anything in the town either. But the rules and regs are, the board has changed some of the rules and regs, and when the size of the board, which was a select board decision, had to go to the state, I think, to reduce the number of board members. When I first joined, it was more than 9. And that had to go through the select board. But, so it may be that it was illegal to put that in there. Mark's point is well taken. Maybe, who knows? I don't know. But anyway, sorry. I just butted in there. And Mark, did you have something else you wanted to add?
No, I was just going to say, if there is a regulation, and this is not meant to reflect on you anyway, Marge, is there should be a limit to how long someone can, consecutive terms someone can be an officer, right? Having served on other boards, you don't want the same person to be chair for
Right.
years, right?
Right.
That's what the term limit, that's more the importance of the term limit, I think, is how long someone can be in the chair of the board versus on the board. I think that's much more important.
Good point.
And that's a regulation that is a COA regulation, since we elect who the chair is annually, right?
Correct. Every June, there are elections. That's
So
correct.
so we should potentially revisit that one. Not saying that I don't love you being chair, right? But and not that I want it anyway. But it's just something that has to happen on the different boards, because that is much more of a concern, in my opinion.
Thank you. I think you're right. I agree with you. But yes, Jamie.
And I just want to say, and I understand everybody's point, and Anita was so eloquent in how she put it. We went through this again. I don't remember. I don't think it was in Needham. It was a selectman thing at all. It was more the culture of the board was to make changes, like Mark was saying. You know, somebody might stay on the board but not be the chair. But when we were going through this process, which took a long time, when I first came on came in Needham, we begged the then sitting chair to stay as chair because we were in the midst of this. And when she moved out of town and the person became the chair, we begged that person, because it takes time to have this process of building a center, as you all know. So for the very reason that you're saying you want to consider this in terms of the knowledge that Anita was talking about, both in that you know how to get something done, but you also have been here historically and know some of the ins and outs. It proved to be extremely helpful and very helpful when I left for the person who took my job to have that continuity with the board chair. So it's a consideration. I mean,
Oh, we have a motion on the floor that we need to.
I'll second it.
Well, the motion was to take out both sentences. The motion was to remove that whole section, section 3.1 that says the COA shall consist of 9 members. That can't be removed. I mean, we have no choice over that. The COA has to consist of 9 members. That's a select board thing.
David, would you like to amend your motion?
Yes, I would like to make a motion to remove from Article 3, Section 3.1, the sentence which reads, "No member may serve more than 3 consecutive year terms."
I'll
Second,
second that.
3 consecutive 3-year terms.
All right.
Second?
Well done,
Anita
David.
got it.
Thank you. Okay, we need to have a roll call vote. David?
Aye.
Thank you.
Marge, someone has their hand raised, I think.
Oh,
if you
I'm
wanted to do
sorry.
that.
I'm sorry. Who am I ignoring? I'm sorry about that.
Or it looks like it.
Who has their hand up?
Or does it?
I don't see anyone.
Okay,
Okay,
maybe it's an illusion on my screen. Sorry.
thank you. No, but thank you, Dave, Mark. That was helpful, like if there had been somebody there. Thank you. So David, yes, did you vote? I'm sorry.
I did, yes. The answer
Thank
is
you.
yes.
Okay, and Mark?
Yes.
Thank you. Maureen?
Yes.
Ann Lee?
Yes.
Wendy?
Yes.
Anita?
yes.
And Marge is a yes. Okay, thank you. It's a unanimous vote, and thank you very much for clarifying that. Anyway, I appreciate
If I was
that.
you, Marge, I would have voted against it.
Hey, I don't have to be chair. If I'm on the board, that would be nice. Then I can still offer my thoughts and ideas and suggestions. So, okay. All right, where are we on this agenda? We've been bouncing all around here, so I think we can. We've
Just
done the new
question,
business. We've done both new business items. So we can go back under old business. Is Patty Hunt on with us today, Ashley?
yes, she is.
She is, okay.
Yes.
The first item is actually is probably a mute subject. It's an update from the COA Vision Subcommittee, which has to do with the senior center. Mark, do you have any additional words of wisdom for the board now? Or does our discussion with Anthony kind of cover that whole thing?
Our discussion with Anthony covers pretty much everything. We haven't done anything as a visioning committee pending the stuff with Anthony. So I'll plan on attending the 22nd meeting and see what we can do at our
Okay.
going forward.
Okay, great. Thank you. So then we can move right along down to the Housing Subcommittee, and that's Patty. And I do have a handout from Susan. If there's some questions about her involvement with the planning board, Susan, as I said, left me with her words in writing that she wished that I would share. So, hi, Patty.
Hi there.
How's the closed captioning?
Well, I wouldn't have had to resign if I had that a long time ago. It's even on the TV. I turned the TV on to see who was there, and it is.
Wow, that's great. Thank you.
It works
I was so
well.
excited.
Yeah, when you've been looking at it for 10 years, it makes a big difference. Yeah. So do you want to give Susan's report?
Well, it's not really. She had a couple of comments. I'll share if you'd like. She
Okay.
says, regarding the planning board, there are two actions of interest to this board in front of the planning board. Two actions of interest to the COA board. One is the Littleton Station area. And she says the planning board is seeking a bylaw zoning change to create a 40R overlay district that will be multi-use, housing and businesses with a variety of housing options. This is the project that Matthew Nordhaus spoke to us about last month. And the second is there is a bylaw change to the senior residential development and inclusionary housing zoning bylaws coming or being recommended, I think. She writes, senior resident developments must meet strict affordability goals, and a new senior apartment category will be added to support development of small, deeply affordable housing units for seniors or disabled residents. And then she says also they're trying to clarify that independent living units must include specific minimum level of basic services. Currently, that bylaw states independent living units that include some basic services such as meals, housekeeping, grounds, maintenance, security, common areas, and common facilities for events and activities for the residents of the development. With the bylaw change, it will state shall include. And she can provide links to the proposed changes in the current bylaws if you would like them, and just to let her know once she's back on her feet.
So I was actually at the last planning board meeting, so I can speak a little bit to both of those.
Okay,
The 40R is the project they're talking about by the train station of putting in apartments or higher density housing down there. It is not senior specific, but it's less expensive housing. The residential senior bylaw is targeted at a couple points in town specifically, like the common area, the point, and a few others where you can put in like senior cluster housing or apartments in those areas. And a certain percentage of them have to be affordable, and so on and so forth. But that was a few specific areas that applied, right?
Right.
It wasn't, you couldn't just build them one in your backyard, right? It was
Right.
specific areas. So, and I believe there's a hearing on those next week at the planning. One of them has a hearing next week at the planning board, I think. So,
Patty may have
Yes.
more information on that too.
Yeah, actually, if I'm correct, whatever they're going to build up there, 20 to 25% of what they build is supposed to be affordable. I remember
In the
that.
40R? You mean the 40R project?
Yeah,
Yes,
I
I
remember
believe
that
there's a.
being stated at a previous planning meeting. So, which, you know, I mean, it's down the road, but I do remember that being stated. Our subcommittee is rolling right along, I think, quite well. David and Sue actually cover the planning board and the affordable housing and select board meetings and report back every month. So they're really very good at what they're doing. What we focused on at our last meeting were 3 draft documents that we're working on. One of them is a statement of support for housing options in town that we've drafted and we're working on now. And it's a document that we're going to submit to the select board, the planning board, and the affordable housing committee, telling them as the COA housing subcommittee, how we're going to, how we as a committee of the Council of Aging support housing options for seniors in town and almost seniors in town. And that's one of the big things we're working on right now. The second draft document that we're pursuing is something that I call what is and some. It's a list of housing related acronyms and what is, you know, like what is 40B, what is 40R. We thought as a committee, if we're on this housing committee, we need to know what these different things mean so that we can understand when they're talking housing options, we need to know what it means. So we were putting this document together so that anybody who decides or wants to be on the housing committee, oh, that's what that means. So that was one of the documents we were putting together. And the last one we were working on was just who and what are we as a housing subcommittee, which would be good for Marge to put in the COA manual for board members. So we got those at our last meeting, and the committee now is nitpicking them, as I say, putting them together and tearing them apart so we can finish them up. So that's where we're at now, but very productive work going on in that committee, and I appreciate everybody's input. David, if you have anything to add.
Well, you pretty much covered it all. The only thing I was going to say is that it's, you know, there's been quite a lot of talk about the senior center. We started talking about housing, but the senior center seems to have, you know, come up over the horizon, and just talk about housing has kind of quieted down. But I imagine it's going to pick up soon. So I just make note of that.
It's kind of like a two-edged sword. You know, you
Yep.
get a little bit of housing going, and then all of a sudden, senior
Yep.
center comes in. So you get pulled in both directions. So you have to keep at it.
Well,
But we
I
do.
know- Yep. We'll just keep doing what we're doing, and the senior center will keep doing what it's doing. So
That's right. We got these 2 big areas of, they're huge areas of concern, and it's going to take time in both cases.
yeah, it's not a bad thing.
It is not a bad thing. There's action going on, and that is a good thing. So, a great thing. Thank you, Patty, and thank you, David.
You're welcome.
Nice to see you. Enjoy.
And you broke up, Patty. What were you saying?
I said, nice to see everybody.
Oh, good to see you too. So,
Take care.
okay, thank you, Patty.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Okay. Moving on quickly, I do have an update from Susan on the Transportation Advisory Council Committee. And she says the chairman, Gary LaCroix, I think it is, will be presenting at the select board this evening. He will be giving an update and asking the select board to support the application to MAPC, Metropolitan Area Planning Council, for technical assistance to bring the landline initiative to a reality. And that is a bike path connections for 14 communities. And he will also mention that the committee needs a member at large. So that's what's happening with that. And she would have said that if she had was with us today. And then Maureen, do we have an update from the Affordable Housing Trust?
In a minute.
Take your time, don't choke.
Well, you know what? While she's doing that, I'll bring up something else. You all received a copy of a letter that I wrote. And I think I explained why I wrote the letter. It was suggested to me that we do this. And I won't go into details where that suggestion came from and how it came about, but I thought it was a great idea. So I put together that letter that I sent out for you to review, thinking that this would be, if we could get it done today, it could be sent off to the town administrator and the select board this afternoon, and they could deal with it then, because it's a perfect week. It was a year ago, March 13th, the town hall shut down, and today's the 8th of March. So it just really made me think a lot about, what's been happening in the past year and how it hasn't been all bad. So I'll take your, any feedback on that, and where do you people want to go with it? What's your feeling about it? Anybody want to say anything? Do you wish to have the board send such a letter? If
Yeah.
not,
Yes.
oh,
I second that, yes.
we don't have a formal motion, but thank you, Wendy.
Okay.
Appreciate that, thank you. But is there any discussion before we move right to a vote?
I think anytime that we can say thank you and that we appreciate all that's being done for us and for the citizens of Littleton, it should be done, because not enough thank yous go around. And I think your words were very appropriate, Marge, and I would make a motion that we send the letter to Anthony to forward to the select board this evening.
I second the motion.
All right, we have a motion moved and seconded on the floor, so to speak. Is there any other discussion? No? Okay, then we can move on to a vote. Let's start with David again. I got my little list here.
Yes.
Yes. Mark?
Yes.
Maureen?
Yes.
She finished eating. Ann Lee?
Yes.
Wendy?
Yes.
Thank you. Anita?
Yes.
Thank you. And Marge is a yes. So that's a unanimous vote, and thank you. It needs a little tweaking as far as, straightening out I was worried about the content more than anything, and I will get that off to Anthony as soon as we're done with it. So, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Let's go back to the Affordable Housing Trust. Oh, Ashley.
I'm so sorry to interrupt, but I do know that the Friends also were hoping
Oh
get
my gosh.
support, right? Okay.
Thank you. And I didn't go back that far. I apologize to the Friends. So I really do. Can we Maureen, can you wait for a minute about the Affordable Housing Trust? And then I do need to try to make amends with my blurb here and my mistake. So who's reporting? Is it Nancy or?
I don't see Nancy. I see Dottie. And then I also see a phone number as a participant.
No, I don't know who that is.
Okay.
Dottie, do you have a report from the Friends? Dottie?
She's muted.
No, I don't. I just wanted, hi, I unmuted myself. Can you hear me now?
Yes,
Mhm.
Hello?
yes, we
Okay.
hear you.
Well, I know Nancy was on earlier. She was just gonna mention the Il Forno lunch next week, the grab to go or lunch to go.
On the
And
16th.
it's on the 16th, yes. So I think that's about all she was gonna mention, but I could be wrong, so I don't know. But that's all I could think of to tell you.
I'm so sorry, Dottie, but it was also the time of the luncheon. When time do you want folks to be picking their lunch up?
11:30 to 1 o'clock.
Okay, 11,
Yeah, and they have to sign the waiver and it's $5 per person. And it's corned
Okay.
beef and cabbage and it's a drive-through like they did the other times. And we'll need the list of the people with the phone numbers if they have, and addresses if they wanted it delivered to their houses also.
okay,
So
thank you.
you're welcome.
That's gonna be a great lunch. No question, no question about that. And it was filled up. My understanding is it was filled up within it didn't even take 5 hours. I think for the,
Exactly.
yeah, it was an amazing
Yep.
response. So, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, now we can go back to Maureen and the Affordable Housing Trust, I think.
So the Affordable Housing Trust continues to work, trying to provide assistance for the rental assistance program and the emergency rental assistance program. We also are looking at some space in the town with regard to being able to do some feasibility as far as being able to build in a particular site, finding somebody to build it. As has been stated, we don't want to be builders. We just want to find someone who's done this kind of stuff in the past and can assist us.
Build what?
Housing,
Okay,
affordable housing.
okay. Thank you. Also, you were gonna be sending out a message to the board about when when meetings are for the Affordable Housing Trust?
I can do it today. The Affordable Housing Trust meeting is tomorrow.
Great. Would you do that? Just
I will. I'll
send
send the
message
link.
out. Yeah, and try to remember to do that for us,
I'll try and remember.
because it's good. That's good information, and some of us can watch the meeting.
Yep.
So, okay. Did I miss anything else on the agenda up to the reports? I'm so sorry. I feel badly about my blunder there with the Friends. They'll never forgive me. I don't know what I'm gonna do now. So, but anyway. Okay, if not, can we move on to the director's report?
By all means.
It's 2:53. We might make it by 3. So. Ashley?
Yep.
Okay.
All right. Let's see here. So February was a busy month, as all of you know, due to the high volume of calls related to the COVID-19 vaccine. Early February, the town did develop a hotline to be added to a waiting list to receive a COVID vaccine at Devon's. And then mid-February, we were alerted by the state that they were no longer sending vaccine to the regional clinics. So that has since ended. As Anthony mentioned earlier, town administrators and local reps are continuing to advocate for a regional site. The Council on Aging's part of Neshoba Board of Health did initiate a survey to get some results from residents. So we thank all Littleton residents who had completed the survey. And I wanted to share some outcomes of that survey. So there were 1,348 survey responses and 27.9% were Littleton residents. Let's see here. So other tasks this past February included conversations with the VP of Philanthropy and the VP of Marketing and Programming for the Greater Lowell Community Foundation. So we will be partnering with them for some programs. We've had a few conversations with the Friends group and administration around Friends liability. And we are continuing to roll out the senior tax work-off program. And we've hosted several virtual programs as well. And then just to give everyone a heads up in terms of what's coming up, we have some programs which are sponsored by the China 15 grant, which is the collaborative grant that Littleton, Acton, and Boxborough applied for last year. And the programs coming up include the psychological first aid kit tomorrow, March 9th at 11 a.m. DA Ryan is giving a presentation on scams March 16th at 11 a.m. And then the New England road trip, no mask or gas required with Ted Reinstein on March 30th at 7 p.m. And registration for those virtual programs is included within the broadcaster. And if you have additional questions, to reach out to Cheryl Ball of Acton. We also have some grab and go activities scheduled in March. We had one today, a mystery bag program, which is funded by Emerson Hospital Community Grant Award, led by Anne-Marie Trinosky, the social club leader. And we had 20 people registered for the program today. Thanks to the library for letting us station these grab and goes in front of the library. So this week we also have a craft class, thanks to Anita, Sue, and Kathy on March 10th, 1 to 2. I do know we still have space in that program. So if people are watching from home and if they're interested, please call and let us know. And then the El Forno's Grab Lunch and Go, which is sponsored by the Friends, on March 16th, which Dottie had spoken about earlier. We are continuing with the virtual programming, including Carrie's line dancing on LCTV. We have the Council on Aging EHS monthly highlights show, which had celebrated a year this past February. So congratulations to Anita and Sue on their monthly show, highlighting all of the activities. And Bill Vales is continuing with his internet presentations every Thursday, 10:30 to 12. And we do have a recurring link. So if people are new to the class, just call us and we'll add you to the list and you'll receive the Zoom link. And then we are still continuing to work with Brianna Lavasser, high school senior, member of the National Honor Society, with the Tech Friend program. We've had a handful of seniors interested, and she's working to build her group of people interested as well in order to connect people to receive that type of assistance. And we have our continual virtual ongoing programs, which includes the Living Alone and Aging Well, our staff coffee hour with residents, the virtual social anxiety group, Life Ahead recovery support group, and then the Loving Stitches group. And I don't know if anyone has any questions.
Busy, busy, busy.
Or comments.
Great time. There's so much going on for nobody being around the building. So.
I had one question on the riders. How does the number of people taking advantage of the services compare now to pre-COVID? Do we have any idea on those numbers?
Excellent question, Mark. So during normal times, we would have, and Nicole, feel free to jump in if I'm misunderstanding, but during normal times, you would have 2 COA buses on the road at all times. And now we have the COA bus on the road twice a week on Wednesdays and Fridays for essential trips only. And my memory serves me correct, I think a month of riders or a month of trips would be around 400 trips in comparison to what it is today, which is much less because of, one, the number of days that we have the transportation offered, and then secondly, due to COVID safety protocol, we're only allowed to have 1 rider on the bus at all times. And then lastly, it's really limited in terms of essential trips, medical appointments, in terms of where people need to go. And looking back at the data from normal times versus now, a lot of folks did use the transportation to get to the Council on Aging for programs and activities. And that's not happening right now. Would you say that's correct, Nicole? Is that a good?
Yes. Yeah, that's true.
Okay.
No, it's always up in the 400s, it seems. Right, Nicole?
Yeah.
So as more people are vaccinated, is there plans to expand the service from 2 days a week and to other services, or?
I think we're seeing how the requests go in terms of transportation requests. We haven't had an overwhelming interest in riders taking advantage of using transportation on the other days, but we also know, or our outreach coordinator does work with individuals, as some have access to transportation in other ways too. So it's not like we're not providing people options, but we can predict further out, once we scale up the operation, the increase may very well increase.
Right. I was just wondering if there are plans on how we're opening up more. And the other potential thing, and this might be more for Anthony or Scott, is trying to get the drivers vaccinated early, since, you know, they're interacting with elderly in the vans, that it might make sense to get them on an early vaccination list if possible too. So I'm just trying to figure out how, you know, things return to normal and what we're doing to help that, as more of the population that the COA is serving, you know, is being vaccinated, right? How we're going to get, you know, theoretically the COA can return to normal before a lot of the rest of the world can, right?
And we're on, you know, countless calls with other COAs in the region and in the state. And I think, once again, it's going to be a slow, steady welcome back of programming and activities. And I do know of other COAs that are thinking, you know, May, June may be a time to try out outdoor activities of some kind, and then later on resuming the in-person. So.
Yeah, I agree with all of that. Be nice to be out in front of it rather than behind it. That's all. So I think you're doing a great job. Thanks.
Oh, yeah. The days of the transportation was a huge problem, actually, because we had so much demand, Mark. It's really, yeah. Nicole's shaking her head. It's a big change. We'll get back to that, I'm sure, once things get a little bit brighter with that light at the end of the tunnel. It's getting brighter all the time. Thank you, Ashley. Any other questions for Ashley? Okay. Amy, are you falling asleep there waiting for us to get around to you?
Oh, no.
No, oh, that's good. I hope not. So you're always bright and chipper.
Usually. So yeah, as Ashley already pointed out, Wednesdays and Fridays, essential trips, transportation is still being offered. The pantry deliveries are continuing on Fridays, which is when the pantry is open for the van drivers to come and pick it up. So in February, we assisted 23 households with pantry deliveries, which is a huge number of people. The bag lunch program is still continuing. The Rotary Club continues to assist us with delivering those lunches to folks that have enrolled to receive them. In February, 8 residents were enrolled in the program, and they received their bags every Tuesday and Thursday. The child care subsidy program is still accepting applications, as well as our rental assistance programs. Today, we approved the 11th emergency rental assistance program application. And we're sending that out, the agreements out today. We have a new program coming up later this month on the 25th, the LGBTQ Coming Out Stories Across the Generations, which is a collaboration between our department, Minuteman Senior Services, Congregational Church, First Church Unitarian, and First Baptist here in Littleton. We're hoping for it to be well attended, and we have some presenters ready to go. The Fuel Assistance Program and the Good Neighbor Energy Fund programs are all still accepting applications. SMOC, which houses the fuel assistance application or the fuel assistance program, they have extended their deadline from April 30th out to May 28th. So if people are still interested in applying for those programs, they should reach out to me directly to schedule an appointment, and I'll help them with the application process. And that's all I have.
Great. Nicole, do you have anything that you wanted to add, or?
I don't, not right
No?
now. I think they covered
Okay.
everything.
Okay, just checking. I don't want to,
Thank you.
I didn't want to ignore you after I get in trouble with friends. I don't want to. Okay. All right. Can I entertain a motion to accept the director's report and the outreach coordinators report?
So moved.
Thank you, Maureen.
Second.
Thank you, David. Okay, and David, you want to take the first stab at a vote?
Yes.
That's a yes. Thank you, Mark.
Yes.
Thank you, Maureen.
Yes.
Ann Lee,
Yes.
Wendy,
Yes.
Anita. Oh, is Anita there? She's
Yes,
muted.
she's muted.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you. All right.
Marge,
miss-
did you vote?
I did. Marge voted yes. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I didn't say it out loud. It was loud enough.
Okay,
No.
I just have to count the numbers.
Yep. Yeah, I did. Have I missed anything that was on the agenda that, and I snuck in something that wasn't on the agenda, so. If, I don't see anything, do any of you have anything else to address today? We do have 2 applicants, and I knew this, it's already a little after 3:08. And that the reason why we did not invite them to come for an interview today was that I realized that this agenda was going to be pretty full. And we will address that in April, though. So if people are wondering, anyone that has applied for the vacancies on the board, we will be doing interviews in April.
Marge, Nancy's in the attendees, and she's raising her hand.
Oh, great. Can I apologize to her? Nancy, you're muted. You're muted still.
There.
I apologize
You
because I
forgot.
just, I moved on. Yes, you're right. You should have spoken up before.
I spoke enough. I'm going to be quick.
Okay.
Their sign up for the El Forno luncheon was more than we expected. Well, change the subject. It was quicker than we expected. It filled up by noontime. And there are quite a number of people that are disappointed, but oh well, things happen. And I have to thank Ainsley's staff for taking all those phone calls, and Ainsley, Ashley. My daughter is Ainsley. And we have our funding letters have gone out. The businesses went out 2 weeks ago, and the residential was delayed. That's only going out today. And I think we have about 4,500 total that went out. So hopefully we'll get lots of dough to share with Ashley's group. Lots of dough. But Ashley, we can't do humans. Remember, no humans. That's all I have to say, guys. Sorry, I had to interrupt.
No,
Not
you
at
didn't interrupt, Nancy, and I apologize. I really do. I bounced around the agenda so much, I got disorganized. I admit it. So, anyway,
Well, you guys take care.
thank you. You too.
You as well.
Bye.
All right. Is there any other business to come before the board today? No? Then we can entertain a motion to adjourn.
So
Come on,
moved.
Maureen. Come on, Maureen.
I already did.
All right.
All right, we have a motion and seconded to adjourn the meeting. One last vote. David?
Aye.
All right, Mark?
Aye.
Maureen?
Aye.
Thank you, Ann Lee.
Aye.
Wendy?
Aye.
Anita?
Aye.
And Marge is a yes. And thank you all. Have a great rest of the day.
Thank you
And
Ann,
a
for
good week.
hanging around.